all the latest videos, I was making sure I understood your entire perspective and your intent and different things. Um,
Yeah.
I think we're live. I think we're good to go. Well, hello, everybody who's watching the live, whether you're live or this is the replay. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. So you'll see a on-demand video on each platform. But currently, we got a man who blessed me so many, was that years almost? When yeah, wow, Clubhouse. So we met on Clubhouse. This
Yep.
is Joe Costello, and he's blessed me with opportunity to work with Bob to speak at the college over that Bob runs, or the class that he runs. And I want to thank you for that. You gave out so many gems and a different perspective in the music industry because we met in 2020, where when the pandemic hit, touring was like everybody was like, "What is going on?" So I would love to hear your perspective before you talked about, you were doing this back in New York all the way till Arizona. And then, so you morphed through these stages. Your father was an entrepreneur, if I'm hearing that correctly.
Yep. Yep.
So Joe Costello, so this is a man in the workings of the music industry. Because I think the disconnect, Joe, and I'll let you run with your thoughts, is that we producers tend to be like, you're seeing my basement right now. So we make beats in the basement for most people or in their room. And they never see the correlation or the supply chain that goes from make this beat to like, what is the outcome for that music? And you're hands on with the actual artist at the end of the supply chain, where like it goes to the
Hmm.
consumer bases and the businesses around the world. So I would love to hear your journey, your perspective about entrepreneurship, the reality of the music business, lazy creatives. I want to hear it all. So I'll let you kind of run based off of how you're feeling right now. But I want to thank everybody for hopping in with us and thank Joe
Yeah, man.
directly. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And it's so funny, man. We started at are you even on Clubhouse anymore? What's going on with that?
I peek in every now and again just to see
Yeah.
like the secret news that they won't show on CNN or something.
Yep. Yeah. So, well, just to give you a really quick, 30,000 foot view of what I do. I went to school for music. I went to college as a music student. Um, and I wasn't prepared to get in as a percussion major because I play drums. So my only choice was to audition as a vocalist. So I auditioned and I actually got in. And so my first probably maybe 2.5 years of college was as um, a vocal, like a classical vocalist. And I was in certain shows and things like that. I was a baritone. I was with one of the elite vocal choirs at the school. There was only 28 of us that got picked. Went to Europe with that group. Finally, I was able to switch my major over to something where it combined radio, TV, sound recording, performance. So it was this kind of unique, I guess, degree in a sense that I was able to put together, combining all of those things, which was really cool for me because I got a taste of everything, and it helped broaden my knowledge of the workings of all of these different things. Um, Jump out of college, I graduate, go to New York, go to live in Queens. So it's too expensive to live in Manhattan. I was cutting my teeth, playing drums, dragging my stuff all over town, going to jam sessions at the Blue Note at one in the morning,
Oh,
just, getting crushed by some amazing players. Eventually got to play with some great players, and then realized that I wasn't the elite that goes and does all the amazing things, and travels the world with all these great performers. So I kind of said to myself, years and years of struggle, saying, "Why am I not getting a great touring gig? Why am I not playing with this person or that person?" It was just like, hey, I think I did the 10,000 hours, but I probably didn't. And I just didn't work hard enough. So I had to say to myself, this is not for you. This is not going to happen. And so then I came to Arizona. I was still playing around doing, really nice gigs, not, just any kind of gig, but, more elevated stuff. And then I put together a really great band. The band got picked up by one of the resorts. They said, "We want you to play here every Friday and Saturday night." We started doing it. We started getting popular. People would come in and see us. They would ask us to do their wedding or their corporate event. So I had to then replace us on any night that we took another gig where we were getting paid a lot more money. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. I was like, okay, I grew up in the restaurant business. As you said earlier, my father was an entrepreneur, so he owned a restaurant. I understand venues, I understand hospitality. I understand the acoustics of a room. I understand if I walk into a room and I see the clientele, I go, hey, this clientele is going to want this kind of music. You can't put in classical when there's a bunch of young, hip kids sitting there drinking. So I went to the resort and I said, listen, I'm going to put in a band in our replacement on the days we can't make it. It'll be completely seamless to you. You continue to pay me. I'll make sure the band gets paid. And that was the start of my booking agency. And that was in that late 2010, early 2011. And then from there, I now incorporated in 2013. The name of my agency is On Stage Entertainment Group. We are probably the premier entertainment agency in Arizona. We book a lot of the high-end resorts, their nightly entertainment. We work with these companies called destination management companies, and they are the in-between from the high-end corporate clients and anything local within the cities that they do work in. So like Florida's a destination, Arizona's a destination, things like that. So they'll come to us for all their entertainment. And when we started, it was just all music, and then it blew up. So now we have over 500 forms of entertainment on the roster, everything from an instrumental guitarist to synchronized swimmers in a pool to Cuban cigar rollers, Brazilian dancers to mentalists and magicians, all the way up to on April 4th, we produced our biggest show to date, which was a corporate event, and the headliner was Darius Rucker. So that's
Wow.
it. I did that as quick as I could, so I didn't want to bore anybody.
Oh no, I was on the Facebook page looking at because it opened my mind. Usually when we hear entertainment, we think comedian, musicians, or like public speaking. I saw in there the craziest things, like people's talents, like the Tesla coil
That's the
performers,
yeah,
the
yeah,
fire twirlers.
yeah.
You said the rest of them, and the synchronized swimmers. So how do you? This is interesting because you're showing the progress from. There's a book, E Myth by Michael Gerber, and he
Yep.
talks about those three levels. There's the technician, or like the skilled worker. Then there's the manager who kind of organizes everybody. And then there's the entrepreneur who has managers report to the entrepreneur, and et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like you've evolved, kind of seeing your skill set, and then you're like, I can do this. I can scale myself up, so to speak. And then you moved up that kind of. Can you explain the mental shift? Maybe this is a nuance, and I just want to bring it to our audience. Can you explain the nuance of mindset about being able to detach from being hands-on all the time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, is this you're talking more for the people out there that are running their own businesses?
Yeah, just like if they're looking to evolve, like what it really takes,
Yeah.
because maybe they just want to live in that creative space. They don't want to be the P. Diddy's and the people that they claim they want to be. Maybe they just want to do what
Yeah.
they love every day.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's so hard, and that's why, like, knowing what you do, and people like us, we're sort of a strange combination, right? Because you're very precise when you talk about things. You're very clear. You explain things. I
Thank
know
you.
that you have the business sense, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You have the creative piece of it, which is creating the beats and all the stuff that you show on your channel.
Thank you.
It's a hard combination, and to survive and excel in this day, you have to understand all of those pieces. And if you can't, like you just said, you have to give it up to somebody to do it. You can't just think like in like when I grew up, right? I'm 61 at this point. When
Oh
I
wow.
grew up, it's like, oh yeah, let's be a rock musician and jump on a bus and tour around the world and drink and smoke pot and do whatever. It's not like that anymore. You have to have all of these layers in place. You have to understand technology big time because you'll get left behind, especially with AI coming into play. You can automate so many tasks to keep yourself organized. And then you have to have the business sense to know when to say no to things that aren't right. Your gut is like this amazing compass. If somebody asks you to do something and it doesn't feel right, like immediately, it's a hell no. Like don't do it. You'll regret it, and it'll sour you towards what you're doing, your business, and things like that. And you have to have the entrepreneurial sense to say, I just can't sit here in my basement and do this. I have to put out other layers to make money. Like I created this thing. I think I don't remember. I have a PDF document that I was giving out, and it was like I forget the number of ways to make money in the music industry. And it taught and it and I it's very detailed and I worked really hard on it. And it was how you have to diversify and you have to do all of these things so that you don't necessarily have to go and work in a coffee shop somewhere to pay your rent. The goal is if you love doing this, you wanna figure out how you wake up every single day and all you do is work on your craft and work in the business of your craft. And that's what I did in 2011 when I shut down another business that I had that was unrelated to music. And I said, okay, starting this date, I'm going to wake up every day. If it doesn't involve music, I'm saying no. And that for me was teaching drums, volunteering at Alice Cooper's school here. He has a school where I was giving free lessons to underprivileged kids. I was playing 7 days a week. Sometimes I was doing doubles on Saturdays and Sundays. On Sundays, I would do an early morning church gig after getting home at 2 a.m. in the morning from a Saturday night gig. But it was all music. And then I was doing studio sessions, which I still do today.
Okay.
So that's what you have to do. You have to make the decision. Do I love this enough that I'm going to make sure nothing else interferes with it? And if once you do that, you have to say, make a list of all the things that you can do to concentrate on doing this craft, making money at it, never resent doing it, and wake up every day excited about getting busy on whatever you're doing.
No, I love that. You said so much in that small amount of time, which was even going from New York and shifting over to Arizona. I listened to your story where you sat at like this desk table in this room and told your story.
Hmm.
And so I remember you said you were stamping papers in the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And then, it got a little hectic on, I guess, the lifestyle or whatever. I forget exactly what you said, so forgive me. And then is that the shift that you made from that to music, or am I missing?
No, it was tough because in New York, I was balancing just what I just said, where at that time I wasn't smart enough to say, hey, I want to wake up every day and do music. So I had to go get a job like most musicians in New York to pay the rent, right? Or actors or actresses. They have to go and get a waiter job, right? That's something like that I did when I first moved there. I was a waiter during the day and then I would play at night or go to jam sessions at night to get heard. And so, it's that balance that I was doing. And I was like, God, I went to music school. I did all of this stuff. And I'm sitting here in the 15th floor of the World Trade Center working for an import-export broker, just basically taking a stamp and going through papers and stamping them. I'm
Hmm.
like, what am I doing?
Hmm.
So yeah, those are little mini wake-up calls along the way, right? They're all lessons. They're not like regrets. They're just things that say, hey, get your ass moving to the next level. Do these other things. Get out of this rut kind of thing. So
Yeah, no, I think the story is enlightening because it's saying to follow your true inner desire. They call it a calling in church.
mhm.
And I used to mix up calling and purpose. I realized calling is the fuel that we need to get to our destination, which is the purpose. So you put the fuel in your car so that you could actually drive that long, enduring journey to get to your destination, God willing, and you're the intent for the creator. And I want to ask the nuance here is how did you deal with the identity shift of closing something old down and then moving into music? Was it just that you love music so much that it didn't hurt?
Yeah, it's like, I started my going all the way back, my father owning this restaurant. He was saved in the Korean War from not being killed with all his buddies and his platoon because he played the saxophone in the army band and he was ready to go out on a mission and the sax player got sick in the band and they called him up. They literally pulled him off the truck with all his buddies saying you got to get on a flight to wherever it was because the lead tenor sax player got sick, and literally his all his buddies, except for a few of them, ended up getting killed on that mission. So it's like music's been part of my life since being watching him in the restaurant where he would work all day and at night he'd come to back to the house, he'd shower, change, get all slicked up looking, go back to the restaurant to just be there as like the face of the restaurant and then he would sit in with whatever bands and play the sax. And then eventually I was old enough to sit in and play drums. And so I've been playing since I was like 6 years old, 6, 7 years old.
Wow.
So I have always loved music. And I just at one point, and here's a perfect example of one point I got distracted where I said to myself, wait, if I had a company in New York and it was very successful, and I said, if I can make this company go and I can either ramp it up to make a really lot, a lot of money, or I can sell it, then that money would fuel my music adventures. Maybe I could buy my own tour bus, put together my own band, whatever. It was the wrong thing. You either work hard and you are prepared when the chances come, and you're one of the elite that make it to that higher level where you can really sustain yourself on it, or you have to figure out a different plan. And it could be these various revenue streams that you and I are talking about, where it's like you're not, some of these people watching or listening, and even yourself, are you going to be the next P Diddy, right? Are you going to be doing what he's doing in the sense of getting the exposure to your beats? Maybe not. But if that's not happening at the moment, then you need these other streams to do it, right? You need to figure out a way to bring in revenue through either teaching courses on how to make beats, selling your beats, working more with artists who need beats, whatever the case might be, right?
Right. No, I agree. I try to teach, and I would love to give that PDF if you could find it, because
I will.
we have an email list of I think 200, maybe like 250,000 people active, but the total is
Really?
the email list is
Wow.
bigger. Not that everybody opens up every single email, but I could get it out there for you and send people your way because I just want people to just understand that to self-actualize requires a lot more and it's fun. It's not scary to be better at communication skills or to hop on the phone or to learn how to, vibe with people
Yeah,
beyond just learning how to play the keys, and everything like that. But I would love to give that PDF if you can find it. And also,
absolutely.
you reminded me of the importance of, I'm taking notes, by the way, delegation. Now, before I get into the businessy stuff, one thing I'm observing from your story, me and you have in common is that our progenitor, like the people who came before us, our fathers and grandfathers, came from an army structure. This is just a free ball question. Do you think that the army added structure to your family to where now, how do I explain this? To where now you can appreciate the importance of structure? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that the hard work that I do came out of watching my father do it, which I can only assume he learned it through being in the army in the Korean War. He was brought up to understand, being on, if you're not early, you're late, that kind of stuff, right? Making sure that everything is triple checked and everything is right and don't cut corners. And I think that's kind of what genetically flowed into me. And it's hard for me to instill that in performers in the creative world because they're creative. And like I said at the very beginning, it's a very hard mixture to have a creative who's has the business sense, who's an entrepreneur. It's those are tough. They're usually just like, hey, I just want to write my songs and I want to go and perform. And I don't, when I ask somebody if they're available for a gig and they say they don't have their calendar with them at the moment, I'm like stunned. I'm like, dude, don't you have one of these? Like, this is a phone. It has your calendar on it. Like, if you want these gigs, you got to be able to go, boom, yeah, I'll take it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many things that we deal with, especially with this booking agency. It literally is like herding cats. I don't have any other way to
Cat.
describe it.
Yeah, if you guys don't have a cat at home, trust me. They're very aloof. Like they will, I'll be like, come here, Mix. We have a cat upstairs. I'm like, come here, Mix. Come here, give me a hug. And then she'll just go the other way. But I want to ask you, because you're a man who passes opportunity and creates deal flow for other folks. And I had a mastermind where I would create deal flow for like content creators. And it scared me. I'll be honest. It scared me when I had 100 of the top guys. I think DJ Payne one may have been in there. He's in the chat. And
Cool.
and I would just bring in, deal flows, opportunities to joint venture and everything. And then only 6 people truly took action out of that group of 100. That
Yeah.
scared me because I'm like, we are the leaders of this community and only 6 of us like, this is a little scary. But I want to ask you, what are some mistakes? Because I know you had a video about, like, that's why I thanked you right away. Because to me, I understand. Are you a father as well?
I am. I have two. I have a boy and a girl that are back in New York State, and then I recently got married to the woman I've been
Okay.
with for 21 and a half years, and I've been basically her stepfather since she was 4 years old. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any father on the planet, I'm like, look, we got to be on our own team. This is this is a whole different thing. And I think I start to appreciate the word thank you a lot more because it's like, okay, the things that I do that are unseen to folks every single day, it's like, but it takes a lot of effort and energy. And just as a leader, I understand how important it is to create opportunity, whereas most people in the music industry chase opportunity. So when
Mhm.
you can create opportunity and let it flow, that's a very high responsibility. So I want to ask, what are some mistakes that the musicians and the entertainers do? I won't spoil your whole series that you had going on your channel, but can you just list some mistakes that people, like you just mentioned the calendar thing?
Mhm.
What are some mistakes that you see over and over and over and over and over and over again?
So here's my biggest one, and if anybody's listening to this, this is the biggest thing today. Is you have to have, if you're a performer, and even you do this, which is amazing. I watch your video, I'm like, I don't know anything about making beats, but I sit there and I go, that's really cool. Like,
Oh, thank you.
I just, it's neat to watch. So
Thank you.
the biggest thing is that there are so many performers out there that don't have quality video of themselves, and it
Hmm.
is literally the call your business card today. There's no excuse when you have one of these and it shoots 4K video, and when you want to join a roster or you want someone to, hire you for something, and you can't show them an actual live example of what it is that you do and what they'll see when you walk through the door. And so we get videos. We have an application on our website for people to join our roster. At this point, we used to go and search out entertainment, and we still search out really cutting edge new stuff like the Tesla coils thing that you're talking about.
Hmm.
But at this point, we get flooded every week with people wanting to join the roster. And we have an application process on the website. We did it that way because it's going to weed out the people who are lazy that don't want to fill out that information and don't want to supply us with high res photos, don't want to supply us with a bio, don't want to supply us with three or four 30-second segments of a video to show three or four different styles of music that they do, or three or four different magic tricks that they do, or whatever the case might be. And everything comes to a dead halt because they don't have video. And I'm baffled. You could literally set up some sort of backdrop, like your cool backdrop that you have in your studio, and you could have somebody video you creating beats. I mean, it's a different thing with you, right? Because somebody can watch your screen and do it, but it's still, if you can't show it on video and if you can't show it live, and if it's not going to be the same as when you walk in the door, it's useless to anybody. We have people that will go into the studio, do a song that they do as part of their, like usually it's cover stuff, right? Because we book music that people want to hear in resorts or at corporate events and things like that. So it's not original music.
Hmm.
They'll go into a studio, they'll record themselves doing a bunch of songs. They'll take that soundtrack, they'll go into a soundstage somewhere, put in a bunch, have somebody put a bunch of lights and fog machines, and
Hmm.
then they'll lip sync to it. The problem is when they actually come to do the gig, they sound awful because they had to get it so highly produced in the studio. And so we actually don't even accept lip synced videos because I can't put my name on it saying that band's going to walk in the door and they're going to sound exactly like that. That scares me when they have to do something like that, as opposed to me seeing them in a live video on stage doing their thing. And I go, wow, if this is literally someone standing out in front of the stage taking this video and they sound amazing, they're going to sound even more amazing when they're in front of me live. So,
Wow.
sorry, that was a super long answer, but video. I can't say it enough. It's
Oh.
whatever it is you do, create videos of it.
Oh, freak. Darn it. I had the y'all were nobody told me this entire time we were on. So sorry, Joe. Speaking of video, our video wasn't even broadcasting to the screen because nobody told me I had the loading screen up the entire time. Regardless, you guys heard gems. Forgive me. That's so ironic. Oh, I feel so embarrassed. I cannot believe y'all were staring at the loading screen that entire time. Well, here's Joe right here. Oh my goodness. Forgive me. I just got embarrassed in real time. I want to ask you because you just explained why it was so important with the backtrack. Because I heard you mention in a video, you were like, I won't accept, the folks who are sending in backtrack. I thought you just meant because the band experience is more immersive when you have a real drummer, a real keyboard player, a real instrumentalist.
Well, yeah, it's two different things. I'm talking about when people submit band videos and it's not really them performing. It's them lip syncing to them over a highly produced track that they did in the studio. And then they just get on a sound stage all dressed up with lights and fog machines and they lip sync to it and they send those. That's one thing that we don't accept. The other thing that I made a decision a long, long time ago when I started this company was that my goal is to not only elevate the pay for musicians, right? We work really hard practicing many, many, many years. We get our souls get crushed day in and day out when someone doesn't like something that we do or we play or how our voice sounds or and so I think that you should get paid well for this. You've worked really hard just like anything else and you're providing enjoyment. And so I don't allow anybody on our roster who played a backing tracks. The only time I allow backing tracks is we have a band that we book out of Montreal, and they're a 10 or 12 piece band with horns and everything. They'll run tracks, but for every track that they use to fill in the sound, there are real amazing musicians on stage playing that same instrument. So they're not subbing out an instrument with a track. And I don't hire these guitar players to come in with drum machines who sing and play guitar, have a drum machine, and have all sorts of other keyboard backing tracks. And because to me, if they've now put that drummer and they put that bass player and they put that keyboard player out of work for that night, and they're giving these resorts or this client or whoever they're working for the sound, but they're forcing other people to stay home and not make money. And that's just I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's totally my opinion. It's how I run my business. I get more respect about taking that position than I do get pushback. But those are the two instances I was talking about.
Wow, I like that because, and again, forgive me, I just had the sweats come on me and everything. No, that was super embarrassing. I'm sorry, y'all. I should take the blame.
Hey, listen, they didn't have to look at me for the first however many minutes we were on, so that's good.
I'm like, wow, Joe's looking crispy. He's 61, no way. And I'm like, he has perfect HD video. This is gonna be great. And then it's just a loading screen the entire time. Sorry, my mind was on that for a second. But I think that's great because you remind me of myself, and it shows how giving you are because if companies, this is how I created that like mastermind group of deal flow, because companies used to come to me for sponsorships and then different audio companies would do different deals with me. And I said, well, if you want me, you got to get this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, almost like a band, because I want to spread the opportunity because it just makes more sense. So I like that perspective is that you're giving the creative more power actually to be more flexible and there's more trust involved to where if the band is involved, that means chances are everybody's going to show up, not one person and then they don't show up. That would suck. But also it shows how much integrity you have as well, because you're saying to the corporations who might not understand this craft, look, this is the real deal. And you're giving them so how does, let me ask you more corporate questions is how do you deal with, I'm assuming like a deca millionaire, $1 million kind of corporation or however much money they make. I don't know. Like, how do you go in there and have confidence? And how did you even get in the door? What's that conversation like?
Well, each year we're in business, we get to higher and higher levels of direct corporate connections, right? They'll find us and the word of mouth, and they'll say, "Hey, when we expanded into Colorado in 2019, but our core area right now is Arizona. We're going to re-expand to Colorado, but unfortunately we did 126 meetings in 48 days, working our way through all of Colorado. And that was just before COVID hit. And so obviously all of those connections are gone, right? Everybody's either got laid off, moved on. So our core business right now is still out of Arizona, and we're known that if a corporation's coming here for an event by word of mouth or by one of these destination management companies that I spoke about earlier, they'll reach out to us for the entertainment. We very rarely deal with the event person at a corporation directly unless it's a smaller, and when I say smaller, they're still $1 million companies. But we with that event that we did on April 4th with Darius Rucker, the a very large international destination management company reached out to us in October of 2022, and that's when it started. And they said, we want a headliner. It's this date. And I said, okay, what's your budget? And then they gave me 100 to 150,000. Then they gave me 200 to 250,000, and then they gave me 300 to 350,000. And that was for the band to come and perform. And then I said, okay, now I need your top five, your first five choices. And then once I had those, then I can go to the agencies that manage these people. And then from there, I say, okay, I have a date and, all of that stuff that happens in the background. And then even before they go to the artist to ask them if they want to do it, money has to change hands. And it's almost like buying a house. I had to send, the company had to send me $25,000 that I had to send to the management company so that the manager of Darius could literally walk in the door to Darius, say, hey, we got an offer. We already have 25 grand in the bank as an earnest, deposit. This is the date. Are you interested? So when you get to that level, it's hairy the first couple times. This is our second really big event. But now that I have this under my belt, it doesn't bother. I don't want to do it on a large scale where like I'm booking any of the large venues here in town and I'm routing people through and putting them, doing concerts. I like doing these one-offs that's my wheelhouse. I understand it. So it's just being super flexible and really being super detailed so you don't get caught missing something because it could be a really, really expensive mistake, especially when we were in charge of flights, booking room blocks for all the band, figuring out where the tour bus was going to park at the venue, figuring out we had to get two ground transportation vans to run them back and forth from the hotel to the venue space, back to the airport, green room, security, mobile stage that we brought into a giant airplane hangar. That's where the concert was done. Just on and on and on. And so it's a super, super tough balance, especially when these guys came to us with a rider that they had a festival lighting rider. I mean, it was meant to be at like Red Rocks. And I'm like, this is inside an airplane hangar. You guys have $47,000 worth of lighting. And it was crushing the budget. So it's that entrepreneurial business, stay calm, be super detailed, be very, 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 very responsive. That was my second thing. Videos first, being super responsive is second. When I ask somebody, can you do a date? And they have to, I'll check my calendar when I get home. I'm like, where's your phone? It's like, oh
Right.
my gosh.
Right. Right. One thing about the music industry, not to harp on it, is creatives are very lackadaisical. And I don't know what it is. It's like I can't rely on a creative. And we had so many deals coming through with Web3 and all this. We tried to get in touch with Snoop and all these folks, but it was just so messy. Just because the
Yep.
creatives, like even a writer, is very hip hop and R&B culture. Like that's you don't really hear about that much with public speakers. Billionaires don't ask for a writer.
Yep.
But you had a good tip in your video, even talking about how, like, giving tips to musicians and bands and things. Like when they get to a venue, make sure that the sprinklers are off. Make sure you're not plugging into the circuit, that the house is on so that you don't absorb all the power, all these little tips.
Yep.
And I think that's important because you remind me of this lady I met in LA at a business conference. Her name is Beverly. She's raising 100 million for this film studio off of Vancouver Island. It's called Malahat Studios. And she's like this, quaint, is that a word? I don't even know. She's this nice lady. You wouldn't expect she has this huge project. And she's very giving with information and knowledge, but also she can zoom out and then she could zoom way into the details. And it seems like you're
Hmm.
the same. You have that ability, like an eagle can fly high up in the air, but it can see a mouse from like 2,000 feet away. So that's something I can respect because that takes skill. Like you have to know the granular
Yeah.
components that add up to the bigger machine. That's a lot of skill. I want to ask you, this is a tough question. Tell us from real, in the field. Because I remember there was a lady on Clubhouse. She said like when pandemic hit, I don't know if this number is accurate. but I remember her saying like 6 million or 600,000 jobs just got wiped from the touring scene. And that was
Hmm.
mind blowing for me because I went, okay, I'm using like basic logic, which is, okay, if touring and hip hop is gone, that means artists aren't making that pocket of money, which means they're not going to the studio to spend these crazy budgets with the producer because they're not. There's no final, output to their effort. So I'm like, this is going to affect producers at some point in time. And now we see all these conversations about hip hop declining and all this type of stuff. I think this is my personal opinion that the pandemic created that whiplash effect, the same way it did with the supply chain. Where people ordered this high demand worth of stuff with all this, what's it called? The stimulus checks, and
Hmm.
then all this high demand disappeared right away because, I forget how the whiplash effect works. I'm not a business major, but go look up the whiplash effect, guys. So can you explain, like, from the ground roots, some mindset things you had to go through? What did you see in the trenches? Tell us your war stories, I guess, about the pandemic.
I think it was awful that it happened, and it's obviously it's still posing a threat here and there. I'm not someone who overthinks it. I just live my life and I live hard, and I think it was a really the good piece of it that I think was it flushed out anybody who was always just sort of hanging on, right? It got rid of anybody who wasn't really putting in the effort to belong wherever they were for the most part. Any of us that had established something and did it in a way that was concrete and thoughtful and helped other people and had a really great foundation, we were able to hang on. And it's as a business owner, you have to save for a rainy day. Well, that was the rainy day, right? It's like everything just disappeared. I was in Las Vegas when it happened, when it really happened. And I was watching, the casino workers hugging each other as they were getting laid off and people crying and stuff. And it was just surreal. And there was no one around. And so when I got back to my office, all our gigs had like literally everything went from we have a booking system that we use, and everything went from what the normal color that it is to this faded color where my employee went in and had to basically cancel everything. And it was this 3 month window of just every piece of revenue that went out the door. Um, so I think it was just a good restart personally. I know that, there's people that lost people, and I feel sad about all of that stuff. But I'm saying in a business aspect, I think that the strong survived, the prepared survived. It best, especially for entertainers, it was a wake up call to say, I can't just depend on going out and playing gigs 4 nights a week to pay my rent. I have to think of other ways to do this. So I have to, in that PDF that I have, that I know I have, and I can send it to you, it's
Okay.
like, let me think of all the ways I can make money as an entertainer. So if I just took, the example of, and it's not me because I don't sing and play guitar, but if I was a singer, songwriter type person, I would write songs and I would put them up on any of these platforms that allow people to download songs, and you get paid this very minuscule amount, right? These like story blocks or what's the I'll think of the other one. But when people use soundtracks for their videos and other things like that, put your stuff out there and then hope that it gets picked up in another way, right? On top of that, can you arrange music for people? People need music arranged. Like I have bands that I put together before, and I wanted to have our own style of a song. So people need arrangement, people need transcriptions, people need studio players. I have sessions all the time. I still go in because the producer I work with loves live drums. And I do mostly singer songwriter stuff, so I'll go in and it'll be a raw track of guitar and vocals. I play to a click, I lay down the drums, and then I get to hear the amazing outcome three months later or so. But you have to think of all these ways to make money, and I think that's what happened with the pandemic. Either people said, "Oh my gosh, I need to figure out moving forward that I can't depend on just performing as the way to make a living." And I think that was really, really important. I think that's when I started to actually create that PDF because I felt so bad for so many people on my roster that no longer had any income, and they were driving for Uber and working at Starbucks and whatever it was. And it breaks my heart to see that. So that's why I took the time to basically curate this PDF to say, here are all these other things that you can do. You can teach lessons. You can get a church gig. It's just on and on and on. There's just so many things. So I
Thank
hope
you.
that answered. I know sometimes you ask me
No.
questions and I go off on these tangents because I'm so passionate about, wanting people to be more successful in this industry. And I see people just struggle sometimes, and it crushes me.
No, I wish more people would model the way you think because it's a lot better, I think, to partner up with someone and it's like two stars combining, it becomes bigger as
Yeah.
opposed to somebody being completely clueless and then you're trying to work with them and it's just difficult. Even though they're skilled, I think there's more value when they can be a little more chameleon. I don't know if you said you were a chameleon.
That's it. That's it. That's the word.
Right. I
They
think
have to be they have to be able to adapt to the situation, and those people will excel.
Oh, thank you for vouching because I've been trying to preach on this YouTube church of ours. I'm joking. No, but even, Busy Works Beats, I got courses. We do sounds. I develop software. I did live events at one point. We have we have the YouTube content creation, all the social media revenue streams. So it's like multiple. I think at one point we had 7 pillars if I counted it all out just for the one business. And that's just this business. I'm like, you
Yep.
guys gotta, it's more than just uploading to YouTube and calling it a day.
Yep.
And you reminded me, I'm taking notes. You reminded me when, I think stock video or stock music is what you were referring to, or like libraries maybe.
Yeah, so
People,
I use story blocks when I do videos for the travel. We have a lifestyle YouTube channel, Joellen and I. So I'll use story blocks for, underlying music. But there's another one called Epidemic. That's it, Epidemic.
yeah,
Yeah, so if you can load up music to those when people are paying the subscription to get into those sites, I don't know what they pay the end person, but to me, like if you're doing what you love and every once in a while a little bit of money floats into your account from all of these avenues of revenue, I'd rather do that than go work at Starbucks during the day and doing music at night or whatever.
right.
I don't know, it's just me.
No, you're exactly right. I used to love Epidemic for videos, and I would pull
Hmm.
country songs, electric, like bluesy type songs, stuff that I don't listen to, but I put it in the video, so it's all valuable.
Yep.
You reminded me too when touring kind of shut down, it forced artists to think different. And I remember we did one of the first rapper concerts in a virtual reality thing called the Metaverse,
Yep.
and it was in crypto voxels specifically. I think we were the pioneers of concerts in the virtual space and trying to live stream the audio. It was very different, but I'm
Hmm.
glad that you created the opportunity for people to be hands on and boots on the ground type stuff. Now, how do
Yep.
you in the space that you're in, and I want to continue with those mistakes too, but what's your vision to expand? Like, how does that? The reason I'm asking this is because I need to focus on expansion as well, but in my own like niche or whatever. And I'm trying to look for ways to think about it in a different way than just get this person in a software that I don't teach. Get this person in a software that I don't. That seems very bland and boring. What are your thoughts on like expanding? Is it dangerous to expand? Like people think scaling up is great all the time. I'm going, okay, you want 10,000 people to your email. That means you have to answer 1,000 emails a week. So now you got to hire a customer support team. You got to
Yep.
pay them.
Yep.
So, I mean, you don't have to give away your secrets because I don't know who's watching this, but what's your plan to expand and like, what's your idea about scaling up?
So there's a couple things. One is that I came from a technology background. I grasped, even though I suck at math, I came from a technology. I was able to pick it up quickly. In college, I got a job. I mean, out of college, I got a job that it was really easy for me to understand. And I literally went from a guy that was running nighttime reports. That was my job. I went in at like 5 and I was there until midnight. And I was running these nighttime reports on a dot matrix printer that just that green and white striped stuff, just stacks of it everywhere. And my boss just kept not showing up on time. And I learned more and more. And I was troubleshooting and blah, blah. Next thing you know, I'm the chief information officer for the company with 26 offices around the United States. that took maybe a 7 year period from me going from this nighttime, like almost like a mailroom guy to literally my office next to the president.
Wow.
And it was just because I was able to grasp technology. So for me, everything in my business is automated with technology. And I think that's the only way in the fast-paced world we live in today is that if you stick your head in the sand and don't want to jump on the AI bandwagon, you're going to be left behind, just like people who didn't think anything was going to happen with the internet. So every day we're looking at our processes and figuring out, okay, why does a human have to be involved in this one thing? Or when this gets done, why can't a workflow process move this to the next piece in our business for the next person to handle this? And so, and part of the expansion is I'm pulling myself out of the day to day as much as I can, where I'm looking at the business and going, okay, I can take our model and I could, if I wanted to, there's a potential that I could franchise my booking agency and say, here are the pieces of software you need, and this is how you would start it, and be able to package that as something. So that's one thing that I'm thinking of because I've gone through all of the iterations of figuring it out, and it runs like a well-oiled machine, and we probably have over 60 gigs a week that we're juggling between all the resorts and all the corporate events and all the private events we're doing. And we never miss a beat. There's if someone doesn't show up, it's because not show up, but if they're going to be late, it's because they got a flat tire or they're sick. And we built the roster to be so deep that I can literally get on the phone, go to the next person online and say, hey, someone's got sick, someone has a flat tire. Can you get over to this place in a suit and tie in 30 minutes to fill in? Right. So the expansion is one thing is possibly figuring out a way to franchise this business or package it in some way. A second piece is going to these other destination states that would that would love an agency like us because we're super responsive. I respond, and it might not be healthy, but I respond all the time. Like I never, if I get something at 9 o'clock at night when I'm sitting there watching a Netflix show, I'll respond because I know that we're one domino in the string of dominoes that has to take place for this thing to happen. And it could be the corporate company says, I need a mentalist for a awards banquet on this date. And then my DMC, we call them DMCs for short, but destination management company that works with us writes to me and says, "Hey, we need a mentalist for this." And then I go, "Okay, we'll get right on it." And then I immediately text the 3 or 4 mentalists that are in town that I know, say, "This is a date. Let me know as soon as you can if you can do it." Then we send what we call a cut sheet, which is our high res photo, a bio, and then links of this person performing. And then, like, it could happen at night, and by the next morning, I already have an answer. And I'm way ahead of anybody else in town who just decided that they're not going to respond at night. And they might be live a little healthier than me because, they're not constantly on. But I go to the gym every day, I take care of myself. I can handle the mental issues that I have to do that. So expanding to these other states is important. So we're going to go back to Colorado because that's a great state for doing events all over. We're going to expand more into Florida. We're going to expand more into Tennessee. And that's our plan to just get boots on the ground there that we can reproduce what we're doing here in Arizona. And then the third piece that I'm doing is I've created a course on about preparing to join a booking agency. And the reason I did it is because I see so many entertainers that are not benefiting from their talents and they're stuck at a low level, right? They wake up and let's just use this guitar singer example. There are guys that'll just go and play at the local sports bar for $75, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or bounce around between any of the Irish pubs or sports bars or whatever. The moment they get introduced to an agency like us, and when I say we're an agency, it's not like you sign a piece of paper that you can't work anywhere unless you work for us. What we do is we bring you gigs that are stuff that you would never be able to get into on your own because you're a sole person. Like all of these people are coming to us because they know we've vetted everybody. We have the liability insurance. We do all the, the 1099s. We take care of all the pay. We have the deep roster to back up if anybody cancels or can't make it. So people need to be prepared on how to join an agency like ours. And so I go through all the steps of like, if you like wearing that chain wallet, that you wear when you drive your Harley around on Sunday, you can't wear that when you're going to go play a suit and tie corporate gig. This is the chameleon piece of it. It's like you have to fit what you're going to do. So I try to address how you can jump from playing the sports bars and the Irish pubs and the $75 gigs to jumping into an agency where they book you on corporate events, they book you at resorts, country clubs, and what you need to make that leap. And the course is basically done. I haven't put it out because I'm trying to figure out a way to find, to make sure that there's an interest in it. So that's my next step, is to see if I can figure out a way if there's an interest in actually releasing the course.
Oh yeah, I say yeah, because this is a world that we don't hear about, is like cut sheets. I put that in my notes. Just words like that and just the thought process, going from the guy wearing that chain wallet. I'm just imagining him with a beard for some reason. He's
Yeah.
a long beard and then in a suit, so it's just, and just the mindset and just how to prepare. Because I think, again, the disconnect, that's why I appreciate you in this conversation, is that you're helping us bridge and glue the in between of our, what we expect it to be, like our fantasy versus reality. And you're helping us see the road from here to there, so to speak. Here's a like nuanced question. How do you get folks, because you mentioned you don't like lock them into like this, you only work for us, like it's a mob or something like that. So how do you earn the respect of these folks where they like show up? How do you earn their respect? Is it just because they know you love the craft?
Yeah, I think well, first of all, I can tell you right off the bat, it's because every January I get these emails, and some actually bring me to tears a little bit, because I'll get these emails from performers saying, I can't thank you enough, that as this is my first year with Onstage, and I literally doubled what I made last year. And I was able to take my family on vacation, and I haven't thought about worrying about my rent since I joined your roster. And it's because we jumped them up. Like my goal, and I don't care who hears and sees this, my standard is that I want every performer. Let's just take the music piece, because the specialty acts are different. It's a different animal if you're a mentalist, or you're an aerialist, or you're one of those Tesla guys, or something like that. They get paid a little bit more money. But let's say you're a pop trio, and it's bass guitar and drums, and the guitar player also sings. My goal is that each one of those performers gets paid $100 an hour when they're performing. So when we
Oh, wow.
structure our pricing, that's what my goal is, to do that. And that's pretty good money.
Right.
That's not chump change. So I'm trying to, in my own little world, raise raise the bar, because I've been playing music forever, and it feels like we've ever made is anywhere from 50 to $150 a gig. I'm trying to make it where there's you need $100 should be the minimum per hour for music performers. That's my belief. Whether or not I can always get it, I try my best to do it. And the part that people don't understand is they don't see everything that happens in the background, which is all of the practicing, the loading in, your all your equipment into your vehicle, the travel time, the gas, unloading it, setting it up. Then you're getting paid for all of this stuff, and then the breakdown, or having to put up with someone who's drunk or belligerent, or having to let somebody sit in who is not the best. All of these things that they don't see, and then you have to break down and then load in your car and get home late, and so I that's the way I look at it.
Mhm.
So I even forgot what your question was at this
No,
point. I told you I ramble on when you ask me stuff, but
no,
hopefully I'm still in the same spot you asked me.
no, you're exactly there. Because me and you have so much in common. It's like ironic that I'm seeing myself in what you're saying, and that helps me understand. Like, wow, okay, we are doing I'll say the right thing, and I don't mean to
Hmm.
be like all pious or whatever, but it's that It's when I tell content creators, for example, on YouTube, a lot of these audio companies, they'll be like, "Hey, here's our free software, and you go make a video that makes us tens of thousands of dollars."
Hmm.
And I go, "Y'all don't see that that's like slavery." I mean, to make it kind of silly, but because I saw the behind the scenes, I said, "Oh, your 3 videos made that company $21,000. What if you even had 30% of that?" It's like a
Yep.
salesman, just 30% of what you create. That's
Yep.
fair. Charge
Yep.
700 or whatever 30% would be. And so that's so okay. So I'm appreciating that aspect of this. And I have a lot of respect. I heard my son crying, which threw me off too, which I have to start getting back in father mode here in a second. But I want to end off on firstly, I want to help you in whatever intents that you have, because you helped me way back in 2020 when that was just a golden era of time. There's no way to explain
Hmm.
Clubhouse and the energy that went around. Just so much mentorship, so much knowledge given away for free. To me, I'm like, well, how can I add value back to these folks? So if I can bring you whatever you need for your components and your systems, and even telling people about the system, whatever it is, like I want to add that value to you. And lastly, can we end on some mistakes? Because I want to make short little clips that I'll tag you in. Just final thoughts, I guess, on the mistakes that these acts are making when they deal with your agency, or whether they're pitching, they don't have their, those things you said, the bio, the video, the
Hmm.
maybe some final mistakes you could think of.
Yeah. Again, I can't harp on the video portion enough, and it's when we our cut sheet has a vertical photo that's high res, and then it has the video links are always vertical, and for some reason so many performers want to shoot, I'm sorry, I horizontal. So a horizontal high res photo, just the way we look here in this Zoom, like our two images, it's horizontal high res photo, and then all the videos are horizontal. And we get people sending in vertical videos because it's, like their girlfriend shot them at a bar somewhere. And those are great for social media. And we actually have our performers, we ask them to hand their photo to either somebody that they know that's there at one of their performances, or anybody in the crowd, and say, "Hey, can you shoot 30 seconds of a vertical video for me?" And we have like a bucket that we allow them to upload their stuff, so that our social media person can actually use it to promote all our resorts, promote our performers and things like that. But video, 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 you have to have high res, horizontal, horizontal, horizontal video. And you have to have a high res photo, and you have to have a decent bio. And then your photo needs to be, you have to think of the photo being the way you're going to look the best. Because when someone sees it, they can't go back, right? It's that first impression. So don't send us a high res photo with you with a baseball cap on sideways, wearing shorts with your chain wallet and sandals. I can't book you on a corporate gig when you look like that, right? So you need to be the best you can be in that photo, and we can always back you down if somebody wants to hire you for Hawaiian luau. We can put you poolside and say, well, he can dress as casual as this if you want, but I'd rather have it be that you look your best so that we can get you those high paying corporate gigs. So it's just those kind of things, and response. I'm telling you, I can't wait for the person to respond. I give them, like, we respond. Our promise to every single client, we respond within an hour. We probably respond at this point within half an hour. But we never go past the hour mark that we have not touched base with them. Even if we said, we got your email, we got your text, we're on it, we'll get right back to you. We never just sit and do a bunch of stuff and have an email sit there and simmer for 4 or 5 hours with no response. So response time when it comes to performers is the way some of these people get a ton of work from us, because they're on it. They have their phone, their calendar's on their phone. I write to them. I say, text them. I say, listen, I got a gig. It's in 3 days at this time. Can you do it? And the first person that responds back gets it. And I tend to go to the people that I get quicker responses from, because I don't have time to sit and wait for the ones that don't care.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I wrote a comment on your channel because you had so many videos that just hit home. I'm like, you know what it is, Joe? they're entitled to, because I had a lot of teams and just people really think they're entitled to stuff. I'm like, you have to earn this. This is not
Yep.
for free. I
Yep.
just appreciate you going in so much depth. Even the fact that you have like a Domino's promise, we'll get back to you within an hour type of thing. And you said something else in there. I should have wrote it down, but I forgot. But I just wanted to thank you for being so open, so kind, and then like I didn't expect, because it's been a while, so I was like, he probably won't even read the DM, and then you actually read it within like a couple seconds. I was like, how in the world? And then you replied. So I was shocked that you even opened up the message, because I didn't keep up that relationship. I thought that maybe you didn't think I was like paying attention to you. But I like your post every time I see it on my timeline where you're giving musicians advice. And I remember you gave so much back then. So it's like I always attribute it back to the progenitor source. I just want to say thank you. Sorry, chat. Again, I got to publicly apologize that y'all are staring at that loading screen for a good 30 minutes, maybe. I'm going to take that L publicly and say I'm sorry. Joe, I got to wish you well and your family and everything you got going on. And again, I'm here to add to whatever else you got going on in whatever way, in whatever way. I make
Hey,
that
my
promise.
pleasure, man. Like I said, I'm honored that you reached out. I'm a huge fan of yours, and you're the kind of person that's doing the same thing, and you're just trying to help, and that's important. That's where it's at. It's like, I don't know, anything I can do to help, you just hit me up.
You've already sown those seeds. Well, I'm wishing you well. And I'm going to catch you. I got to go run to my son, y'all.
All right, man.
I'll catch up with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Peace. My fault, y'all. I'm like really embarrassed. I started sweating. I was like, no, not on a very important conversation. I can't believe, y'all, that I had the loading screen up that whole time. Because Joe is a person who sewed back into me back in 2020 when we were on Clubhouse, gave out so much business information, real world music industry information. And I was just like, whoa, this is how the industry works, when it comes to live events and different things. And he's just a giver, as you can see. So I was like, this is the time when I can finally say thank you and bring him on and help him out with whatever he has going on. And then boom, the loading screen was up the whole time. So I'm so sorry. But hopefully y'all got the gems. He's a master at the craft. He's a master at running his operations. He even showed me that I could tighten up some parts of my operation. So I'm going to end this here, but I want to thank everybody for hopping in and expect more videos soon. And DJ Payne 1 was up in here earlier. Rob Snow, Samurai Champions L's here. Joe Kim, Welcome Tactics, Prophecy, Patrick, Puff Pass Beats, I Beats. Thank you again for being so patient. The Official Rantics, I Beats Junius, Big Brother Yeti, Seymour was in here. What up, Famo? Jacob, Can't Trust was in here. Crazy Dooch, Rock City was in here. What's up, Jacob? KP Bot, G Smith, DJ Payne 1 was in here. Aura, Alan, and Starlight. So again, rewatch this video, just listen and just absorb the wisdom, because that was a lot of wisdom. King versus World was here. So again, I'm gonna follow up and see if we can find that PDF for you guys. I'm gonna email everybody. So check your emails, check the Discord, and